Dr. Amanda with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com, and I apologize for those of you who are listening to this video. If you don't see a nice thumbnail, it's because this was kind of urgent, so I just put it out there and I will put the thumbnail on later. I do take requests, so when somebody asks me a question on YouTube and I realize I don't have a video that covers this, then if it's something within my bandwidth or something that is within the guidance of what I'd like to teach for my channel, I will make it for you for free, even though it costs me money. I will make it for you because that's part of the service that I give the orthodontic community or the dental community. Or even though my channel is meant for general and pediatric dentists, I know all kinds of people listen to it just to get guidance. So thank you for listening to my channel. I really appreciate it. Please do subscribe and share it with people you know. That's how I grow my channel, and YouTube is basically how I fund my channel, although it doesn't even come close to funding it. So I fund it out of my own pocket as a labor of love to give back to the world. Anyways, okay, so the question that I got today on one of my 2000 YouTube videos was, what is an orthodontic consult and what can I expect? And I realized that all my videos I had on orthodontic consults, and if you are a dentist and you want to watch them all, I mean, I talk about paperwork, what you need, standard of care, you should go into my YouTube channel, put in the keyword orthodontic consult, and it'll bring up a handful of videos. As well, if you need the right paperwork for that, I have so much paperwork. I have kind of like the highlights of my paperwork on my website, which is Straightsmile Solutions. You can go to store and go to documents and you will see highlights of paperwork. They are for sale. Thank you for supporting me when you purchase them. But they are free if I give them away all the time, like all the time. And sometimes I reference them in my videos, and if you find one that references it for free, I will give it to you. In addition, if you ever want help with a case and you are a dentist, I don't work with consumers directly because of liability, but I do work with dentists as long as they've signed certain paperwork, which takes me as your educator and not the treating doctor. I will give you whatever paperwork you want for free. If you purchase any session, or even if you purchase one of my courses, digital courses, I will give you some paperwork for free. There's a limit to that. Obviously, I own like hundreds of documents, but as long as it seems reasonable. Anyways, otherwise my documents are $20 each. All right, so let's get into this. Again, this is going to be high level for everyone to understand in the whole world. So what should you expect in an orthodontic consult? And the answer is, I don't know. It really depends. I mean, what I do and what someone else does might be different. It also depends on the standard of care in your own state. Every single state in the United States has a different standard of care. A lot of them in the Dental Practice Acts, it actually says the bare minimum of what's expected in an orthodontic consult. A lot of this was established because of DTC aligners, direct-to-consumer aligner companies, kind of skirting the boundaries a little bit. So a lot of states over the last 8 years have made laws, like you are required to take this and this type of x-ray and review it with the patient. So, I mean, what I'm telling you, I think is standard of care is my personal standard of care, which would be to at least take a panoramic x-ray or have access to a recent FMX, preferably a panoramic x-ray. You can do a CBCT and extract it from there. I don't care. It seems like a lot of radiation. That's what's going on here, but can. As well as, depending on the bite, a cephalometric x-ray or a sagittal slice, which is a sagittal slice, often is standard of care. It depends on the bite. Again, depends on the state. Most orthodontics do this on every single patient. But whether it's really necessary, in air quotes, you should refer to all. I basically have so much cephalometric x-ray playlists, you can just search by keyword and see if that's necessary or not. Of course, a full set of orthodontic photos is definitely standard of care, the full 8 series, everywhere, anywhere. Intraoral and extraoral photos, as well as a clinical exam, which is done chairside, where we're checking the bite, we're measuring overjet and overbite and crowding and wear and all those dental conditions, and I have paperwork for all this if you ever need it. Sometimes consults are done on the fly. So if you're an orthodontist and the consult is scheduled, you usually set aside the time where the doctor's gonna sit down, maybe an assistant will come in and take the measurements and the x-rays, and then the doctor comes in, reviews it, and kind of gives a plan, you know, or a couple plans. Sometimes there's lots of options. Sometimes the options might be braces or aligners or an appliance. Sometimes even within the braces or aligners, there's options within options within options. So often my brain is going like, I'm fast. Like I can look at something and I'd be like, yeah, there's like 7 different ways we can do this or something like that. And then we go over the pros and cons of each way, risks, benefits, and alternatives. We've done this thousands and thousands of times. So that's why it's nice to see an orthodontist, because that's all we do is we're able to do this. And pretty rarely that I'm stumped. Let's put it that way. I mean, sometimes there's just some really weird stuff that goes on where you need to take a little time, and sometimes we need to get additional documentation. I mean, there's some additional x-rays or additional measurements, or sometimes if I'm really stumped, sometimes I'll say, you know what, I need a little more time, or I need to get a little more documentation, or I've got to refer you out for this, or maybe we need to go phone a friend, consult with another type of dental specialist. Maybe we got to talk to a periodontist who's a gum specialist. Maybe we got to talk to an endodontist. Maybe we got to talk to a prosthodontist. Maybe we got to talk to a restorative dentist. Maybe we got to talk to an oral surgeon. Maybe they need some work done first. So sometimes other stuff needs to be done first, or we need to bring in basically a team in order to do this. Sometimes it's not just a braces or Invisalign or clear aligners or appliance type of thing. Maybe it is what we call an interdisciplinary case, which is going to involve work at a variety of different dentists in order to get a good outcome. So it can be complicated. It can be really easy. So your orthodontist should be able to probably do this on a fly if it was scheduled, if you scheduled it in their schedule and if they're there. Now, sometimes orthodontists will do what we call asynchronous consults, which is where they'll have one of their team members collect all the data. And nowadays things are so digital, and then they review it at home, and then someone will give you a call and let you know the options. That's an asynchronous consult. So you can even ask, is it a synchronous or asynchronous consult? Most orthodontist office should know the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. There's also another type of consult. It's called a virtual consult, which is, and you can even search. I mean, this is a really fun thing. Just put in orthodontic virtual consult near me. You'll probably, at least where I am, tons pop up, and you could schedule it online. And you can sometimes do it right then. Sometimes you can do it tomorrow, next week. Sometimes, again, it might be synchronous, it might be asynchronous, and it may require you to take your own selfie pictures and upload them. Maybe they won't have access to your x-rays. Maybe they'll request your x-rays from your dentist. Maybe you'll have to come in and take the x-rays before they do it. Sometimes they'll just go off the photos and it'll just be like a wing it kind of thing, and it may not be totally accurate and totally binding, but it might just be a rough idea, what to expect. And then you can come in and take the x-rays. So these are all different ways that can happen. Now, if you're doing this at a general dentist, and of course I support general and pediatric dentists doing ortho. Why? Well, follow my channel and you'll know why. I am an orthodontist, but I gave in a long time ago because I'm like, they're going to do it. So if they're going to do it, I might as well help them do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just like a primary care physician can deliver babies, can do skin cancer biopsies, can do minor surgeries, can do things that are meant for a medical specialist. A general dentist or a pediatric dentist is a general person. They can do all different things. Their practice is not limited to one thing. Whereas once you are an actual specialist, like an orthodontist, like an oral surgeon, like a prosthodontist, like a periodontist, like an endodontist, like an oral radiologist, like an oral pathologist, you have to stay in that lane. I can't go back and do a root canal. I'm not allowed to. I'm now only an orthodontist. So that is the beauty of being a general dentist, is you can do whatever you want as long as you do it at the level of a specialist, or you stick with the cases that you can do at the level of a specialist and refer the hard ones out, or the people you don't like out, which is kind of the beauty of it, right? So a general dentist might have a lot going on in their office at one time. They're doing restorative work, they're filling cavities, they're prepping crowns, they're doing periosurgery, they're taking out teeth, they're making dentures, I don't know what they're doing, placing implants, they're doing a lot of stuff, they're wearing a lot of hats at one time. So they may not have time on the fly to come in and give a 30-minute orthodontic consult. It is time consuming. To give a really good consult shouldn't just be a 2-minute thing. It takes time. So it's probably unlikely you're gonna get one on the fly if you're there, unless they're really good and they're really bored. So they probably will do it asynchronous. That's probably the way it's going to work. And they'll probably give you a call later, or they might schedule another time. It is a bit of a red flag to me if they are taking manual impressions or goopy impressions. That would be a red flag to me. That would probably be an office I wouldn't want to be at, because that shows you that they don't do a lot of ortho and they don't have a lot of experience because they don't have the right technology. Not having a CBCT is not necessarily a red flag to me. Honestly, we don't have them in our offices. I don't think any of our offices have them. My husband and I have some offices. Why? Because we don't have the overhead's too high in the places we work. And it's way too expensive to put in the space. It's just not worth it. And we have centers, in urban areas where we can refer out for CBCTs if we needed them. It's just literally down the street and it's not expensive. So it just makes more sense than investing in a 6-figure machine for us and having to buy additional space when space is at a premium. But people who have a lot of space and lower overhead can definitely put that in. So, I wouldn't worry too much about that tech, because having that tech sometimes make the prices higher because they had to invest in that tech, right? It's like shiny things. But they should refer you out for something if they need it. Now, they should at least give you access to taking a cephalometric x-ray if you needed one. Certainly if you have bite issues. If they're not talking about that, that would be a red flag to me. If you have overjet or negative overjet or deep bite or open bite, and they're not talking about taking a cephalometric x-ray, that's a bit of a red flag to me, because that's pretty much standard of care. If you're just like regular, perfect bite vertically, transversely, things like that, then, gray area. Obviously, you'd have to consult your own dental practice act to see if that's necessary. And of course, taking a panoramic x-ray is pretty much standard of care unless you already have a full mouth x-ray, which consists of, I don't remember, 22 images. That's where they take the little thing and they snap a picture, then they move it, and they snap another picture, and then they move it. It takes like 20 minutes. It takes forever. And you probably do that every few years. That needs to have been done if you're an adult, within the last 6 to 12 months. So if it's old, nah. You got to have at least a panoramic x-ray. So the x-rays need to be pretty current. Same thing with the photos. They need to be pretty current. But photos are so easy to take now. I mean, back when I first started, we were using Polaroids. So we were having to pay for the Polaroid imaging and got expensive. So this gets down to the thing is we talked about asynchronous, synchronous. Is it happening on the fly? Is it happening later over the phone? Are you coming in another time? Is it 2 visits, 1 visits? Let's talk about cost. Most of the time, most orthodontists and most even general dentists and I know do not charge for these. Why? It's just a courtesy. It's one of those things where, like, if you charge for it, people are less likely to get the information. And my goal is to give as many people the information as possible, not to make more money, but to explain. It's really kind of standard of care to give them. And if you even look at the American Dental Association, they say that it's standard of care to explain airway and bite issues to a patient. It's part of a dentist's job. And if you can't explain it, that includes the risk, benefits, and alternatives. It's part of an exam, just a general exam. Then you should refer out to somebody who can. So if we're always charging for that, then people aren't going to want to get that information. And I feel like everyone has a right to know about their bite, what the benefits are to fixing it, what the benefits are to leaving it, what the risks are to fixing it, what the options are to fixing it, and what's going to happen long term if you don't fix it. So I don't feel like you should charge someone for that. Like I said, photos are free now. We all have iPads and phones. So doesn't cost anything to take a photo. If you have to refer out for the imaging, then there might be a fee for that. But usually you can get a kind of a rough idea just from sitting in the chair with the photos and whatever x-rays you already have. Just a rough idea. It might not be binding. You might not be able to give a quote. You might not be able to give a full treatment plan, but it's a loose treatment plan enough that maybe then they want to invest in that price for that image if they need to get the imaging. Or a lot of times you go to an orthodontist, you get an exam, they give you the images. If you ask for a small copying fee, you actually have a right, at least in the United States, I think in all 50 states, you have a legal right to all your images. All your images, including x-rays. You have a legal right to this. You can ask for a copy of it. They might charge you a small processing, printing, or copying fee, but most states in the Dental Practice Act say what the maximum is. It says it has to be reasonable, which is $5, $20, something like that. It's not going to be hundreds of dollars. If it was, I would complain, and I would look into that a little bit more. So most orthodontists will give you a copy of your images when you leave, or they'll mail them to you later if you ask. Maybe you're going to pay for postage, but it's not going to be a big deal, and you can take those to somebody else. So people do it all the time. You'll do a consult and people come in already with their x-rays. I don't want to give someone multiple x-rays if they already had an x-ray. That's not too healthy for them to have x-rays and x-rays and x-rays, especially kids, over and over and over at the same time. That's not great. That's not great dentistry. That's not great ethics. So if someone can bring in a recent x-ray from someone else, great. Let's all share. Let's all support each other. That's fine. It's better for the patient, right? So that is what you should expect from a consult. Like I said, it's really up to the doctor if they want to charge for it. You should ask before you schedule it. You should say, is there a charge for the orthodontic consult? What can I expect from this orthodontic consult? They say they're going to charge. It's your choice. Obviously, if you already know you really like this doctor, the location, you're going to do ortho, then maybe you're going to pay the price, But I would say the vast majority probably do not charge. And it's not uncommon for someone to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opinions. And remember, I think you should get at least 3 opinions before you commit to any treatment. I'm not just talking about price. I'm talking about how you're going to do it, what to expect, what the techniques are going to be, what it looks like. And if it is a clear aligner plan, I would want to see the quote unquote Clin Check. I want to see how you're going to move it, how fast it is, what. And I have a ton of videos on orthodontic consults for Invisalign consults, Invisalign Clin Checks, red flags, things to look for, as well as over 600 blogs on this. So, don't just take the fastest, quickest, cheapest one. It's probably not that great. Just like anything else. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. They're probably going to access a lot of additional fees. So I have a lot of videos where I talk about what questions to ask, red flags, what is included for retention, what type of retainers am I going to get, how many retainers am I going to get, how long am I going to get retainer visits for, how long are you going to cover that, what's the warranty on this, what about broken brackets, what's the warranty on that, how many brackets can I break, what happens if I break a bracket, how long till you get me in. I mean, there should be so many questions. If they're not going over this in their consult, like how it works, again, red flag. They should be able to rattle this off. Everybody in their office should know the office policy, what the rules are. So like I said, if the price is too cheap or the treatment is too short relative to other ones, you probably are getting an inferior product. So, it's kind of like a car dealership. So, on the flip side, if they're saying it's going to take 2.5 to 3 years, unless you're like really jacked up, that's kind of way above average. So that's making me wonder if they're kind of holding you hostage. And I actually have some videos about this where they basically aren't doing anything. They're just spinning wheels to try to get monthly payments. Your payments shouldn't be based on how long you're in that's not true. Obviously, a more complicated treatment plan usually will have a slightly higher payment, but you should get an idea. Every orthodontist should tell you this should be a 9-month case. This should be a 9 to 12 month case. This should be a 12 to 14 month case. If they're telling you, I don't know, or if they're telling you it's 3 years and someone else is telling you 8 months, I would get a third and fourth opinion. And whoever's on the outlier shouldn't be seen. Someone who's too short or too long is probably not good. Go for the people in the middle. That's probably most fair and most reasonable. The faster you move teeth, the more unhealthy it is to move teeth, the more damage causes to the teeth. On the flip side, leaving braces on for too long and holding a patient hostage can also do damage to the teeth. So in a regular treatment plan, we're aiming somewhere around a year. 20 years ago, it was 2 to 3 years was normal, but now the technology is so much better, right? And so many, ask about appointments. Are my appointments going to be mostly virtual? Are they going to be in person? If you're using more removable appliances, probably you don't need actual appointments. You probably can do all virtuals. Just to check the bite and check the fit and stuff like that. Unless there's a problem, you probably don't need to come in after that first visit or two and the last visit. That's how most orthodontics roll now. Obviously with braces, depending on the type of braces you have, whether they're self-ligating, whether they have the traditional O-ring, nothing wrong with either. But the traditional O-tie is going to have more visits than a self-ligating bracket, which you might only come in 3 or 4 times a year. So it doesn't mean it's going to be any cheaper if you have fewer visits, because they're still going to be monitoring you remotely. As a matter of fact, they're going to be monitoring you more often. But ask about how they're going to monitor you remotely. What type of app are you going to use? Obviously, I want to know if they're using a HIPAA compliant app to monitor you remotely. How often are you going to be checking in? Who's going to be checking it? Are they outsourcing the checking to some AI or some bot? Because a lot of people are outsourcing their checks to bots. Like a lot of people. And it's not even cheap. It's actually really expensive. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't love it. I love the idea that not just an assistant is looking at it, but a doctor's also looking at it, because sometimes these assistants that are looking at it are not that trained. And I don't want someone that has like no higher education to be looking at my teeth and making decisions, to be honest. I kind of feel like a doctor should be looking at everybody, at least briefly. But that's just my opinion again. So many things to put in your head. I think once you listen to this and then you go for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consults and get, A, B, C, and D opinions, prices, treatment plans, what to expect, take a tour of the office, how busy it is, how busy is the waiting room, hours, like what is especially if it's a kid, what's your kid's schedule like? Do they have appointments that work around the kid's school schedule, sports schedules, things like that? A lot of times the ones that have the most flexible schedules with the weekends and the evenings are more like clinics, and then you may not have a consistent doctor. So that's something you may want to think about too. Am I going to have a consistent doctor each time, or is my doctor going to change? If your doctor changes, not always a bad thing, as long as there is one supervising doctor that always is going to look at things asynchronously. But it can get a little funky, you know? So hopefully I didn't overwhelm you with all this information, but this is things you're going to expect from an orthodontic consult. And hopefully it gives you a lot of ideas in terms of what questions to ask and how to go ahead and get the information you need on a problem. If you're having a problem with your treatment with an existing doctor and even if you've already paid, go get a second, third, fourth opinion. Like I said, they're free. Sometimes once you have the information, you can take this information back to your original doctor and say, hey, look, haven't been that comfortable with the way the treatment's going. It doesn't seem like it's progressing the way I want to. Here's some opinions I got from some other doctors. You know, I'm thinking about transferring. What's my options on refunds, you know, or can you make this happen? Sometimes, honestly, there's just so many patients that if you're not a squeaky wheel, they're not going to necessarily attend to you or do things efficiently. On the flip side, you don't want to be obnoxious, but I mean, I hate that saying that happens, but that definitely happens. So if you're not on top of it and asking questions, sometimes you can kind of get swept under the rug and your needs might not be met, or maybe they're not so great at communicating. And they don't really realize that you're not satisfied with the way or the speed of treatment is going. Or maybe they're just not good at telling you what's going on and things are going fine, right? So that's why it's always great to get another opinion. But I strongly suggest before you get another opinion to get a copy of your records, which I'm getting is free. You might have to pay a photocopy charge or a printing charge and take it with you because they might charge you for the records otherwise. All right, thanks so much.